Okay, if you're listening on the speaker, I'm going to call this meeting back to order on behalf of our budget chief, Gary Crawford. You're a little late for lunch, but we are going to start. I feel certain he will thank us for it because we don't want to keep any of you waiting. Oh, he made it. The sound of my voice scared him into this room. We're already called to order, so you can just proceed. And I didn't call that name out yet.
Khadijo Afre. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. Welcome, thank you very much. Again, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today about the full implementation of the Toronto Youth Equity Strategy. My name is Khadijo Afra, and I'm here on behalf of the Somali Canadian Forum. The Somali Canadian Forum is a coalition of community leaders, youth leaders, elders, and parents who came together because we saw a community that was grieving with regards to gun violence and youth gun violence, and very little was being done about it. Our goal, among others, is to advocate for the implementation or the full implementation of comprehensive strategies, such as the Toronto Youth Equity Strategy, to combat youth violence and to ensure the sustainability and accountability of these initiatives. I want to first take this opportunity to thank City Council for unanimously adopting the strategy in 2014 and all the efforts by staff to see its implementation. Some great work has come out of it, such as the city's partnership with organizations like Amadeus in Etobicoke, who facilitate educational programs for incarcerated youth so that they're not in the vicious cycle of crime, but instead are making positive changes in their own lives and their communities. Programs like the Community Healing Project, which train youth on mental health and resilience and empower them to become peer facilitators and healers themselves. But as good as these programs are, they need to be sustainable and replicated in more communities. Amadeus has a waiting list of youth who are seeking help, but they don't have the resources to accommodate all of them. So we know that these programs that the Youth Equity Strategy is investing in are working, but it's a shame that they don't have the support they need to fully do that in other communities. Also, since the Youth Equity Strategy was first approved by Council 5 years ago, we have 22 recommendations and actions that are yet to be implemented or are said to be implemented this year. These include big measures, including hiring more youth-specialized workers who would engage the city's most vulnerable, investments in support groups for parents, exploring best practices for dedicated youth space, and creating a program with incentives for employers to hire youth with criminal records, as well as connecting those youth to relevant city services, and the list goes on. We need to push these actions forward. They can't be stagnant. Furthermore, of the 84 actions that are said to be fully funded or implemented or in progress, which is a big category, by the way, how many of them are sustainable and here for the long haul? How many of them are just pilot projects that will die off in a couple of years? We need to see these initiatives grow and thrive and not be worried about how they're going to get through the years. In April 7th, 2018, the mayor and different other levels of government attended our conference, a conference that we hosted to help stop the gun violence. At that conference, the mayor committed to making youth violence a priority for City Council. So to what extent is youth violence prevention a priority in this budget? I know there are many competing priorities here at City Hall, and I understand you all have a hard job to do. And I know that there are different things that you have to consider, but what other priority supersedes the lives of young people and giving communities the best chance to thrive? We have a strategy here. We've done the research that that can potentially save lives, heal communities, and make Toronto an even better place to live. But we have to give it the funding, the real funding and the real chance and manpower to do that. Reducing youth gun violence must be a priority for you and must stay consistently at the top of your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Wong Tam?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. There's a briefing note that has been provided to the Budget Committee that says that the youth equity strategy will be fully implemented in 2019, contingent on Council's approval of $2.5 million approximately. And I think there has been some confusion out in the public and even on the floor of City Council and the Budget Committee of what exactly has been funded out of the youth equity strategy, what's not funded, what initiatives have been started, what's not started. Can you give us some examples from your local community and from the coalition that you represent? Where do you think the youth equity strategy is not delivering on the outcomes that you believe should be part of that strategy?
So I think you're absolutely right. A lot of the times, including the area that I live in, which is Regent Park, a lot of the things that are happening is that we know strategies are being made, or even some of us know that it's happening. But a lot of the times, you know, city workers are not coming in to the communities and telling us exactly what is happening, what is not being funded. And a lot of times people are working in silos. So if the city is providing some sort of initiative on the ground, they're not connecting it to, you know, the people who are receiving that initiative. So there might be a youth worker who's working in Regent Park and that's doing the work that they need to do, but the rest of the community doesn't know to connect with that person. So a lot of the times I feel like with these strategies, you know, you have things that are going on, but the community might not know. Or you have things that are happening on the ground, but you don't see the longevity of those programs. So one program that I like to give an example of is not happening in my community right now, but like with the Community Healing Project, a lot of the youth that were trained were only doing workshops for a while, and once the community got used to those workshops, they left the community because that was the end of that program. So they're very short-lived. So once you do have community members coming out, they can't fully invest in it because they're already gone by that time.
So then what you're saying is that the claims of having a youth equity strategy that's already, number one, developed and funded and being implemented is that perhaps the community is not seeing the end results as perhaps planned, and that it's not being measured, so it's not ongoing, and you can't really see whether or not youth violence has gone down. Young people have more access to opportunities for employment. There is no measurement. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. And the other point was that when organizations are there doing the work that they need to do, they're not funded like for 10 years. They might be given a 1-year pilot project, and then they disappear.
Right, and by not having ongoing stable funding, whatever capacity and momentum you build, it's quickly lost once the funding evaporates.
Exactly.
So there will be a lot of discussion in this, I imagine, this budget about what the Toronto Police are asking for. I mean, the budget for the Toronto Police proposed right now is ballooned out to $1 billion plus. They're asking for $30 million, you know, just over, to sort of to build the services that they need up so that they can keep communities safe. Would you say that that's a good investment of money to get us the outcome of safer communities, or is it a better investment of money to actually put it into the communities where we tackle the roots of youth violence, where we know we have failed in the past? Yeah.
So even with regards to, the police have a job to do, and they do their job well. And I think a lot of the times we focus too much on policing and not so much on the youth that are at the front lines of these issues. So as you mentioned, we need to tackle those root causes. And even the chief of police even did say, you know, we need to invest in preventative measures, they're at the end of the spectrum where youth are already involved in, violence, or they're detaining youth. But we have to get ahead of the problem. And the way to get ahead of the problem is to invest in programs that prevent them from even getting into these situations beforehand.
So by way of my final question, so by way of seeing an escalation of gun violence across the city, greater further marginalization of young individuals, and particularly racialized Black and Indigenous youth, are you saying that the city council has not done enough to support overall the youth equity strategy?
Absolutely.
And if there was a choice to be made, and these are difficult choices sometimes during the budget process, the difference between providing more money to Toronto Police Service and providing funding to the youth equity strategy, we have choices to make based on those values. And I'm hearing that you would invest in the youth equity strategy before you put more money in the Toronto Police. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I feel like if we put the money in helping youth, we won't need the money for more policing, because I feel like the issue will self-regulate itself, because we're getting in front of it. And as you said, council has a huge job on their shoulders, and huge priorities that they have to sort of make. The priority should be helping these youth. And the mayor, when he came out to our conference, he said that we're going to make youth violence and prevention and giving these youth a priority. Not so much policing, but actually investing in the youth a priority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Carroll.
There. One of the things that I'm frustrated, well, first of all, I should say that there's two fronts that we're really addressing this on in council, which is to get this upfront budget-based briefing note so that we can check in and build in whatever we can now. There's also a long-term review, which I hope includes consulting with you, because we did make it long enough so they could go back out and consult, and I hope yours is one of the organizations they get to. Thank you for your comments so far. One of the things that's very temporary in this is $1 million in grants. Do you have experience in your area of any of the groups gaining access to those grants, or do you think those are because it was so short term, it was $1 million and done, are they just going to more established groups and quickly delivered as a project and then done?
I can't speak for the whole of Regent Park because there's so many organizations sort of up and coming. But one thing that I would like to note is that with a lot of the organizations that are sort of trying to do sort of the groundwork to help this youth violence, a lot of them either don't know that the grants are even up and when they're up. So I think there's a lot of accessibility issues in the first place.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we need to do more work, not just putting up grants, but actually helping communities connect the grants to organizations that are doing the work that they need and sort of supporting that.
Right, so that they don't just always fall into the same hands.
Exactly.
The one thing that is not funded here, and Toronto's done this before, youth diversion programs, pre-charge diversion programs to keep people from not ending up on the hamster wheel of the justice system and constantly going through that with police, and it's not funded. It's very hard for us to go to other governments to get funding for that. They use this term net widening. We can only deal with crimes, not people who might commit crimes. And so it's hard for us to get them as a partner. Should we just go ahead and do that one ourselves?
We should. And the funny thing is, in the recommendations, the 22 that are not implemented or going to be implemented this year, one of them is to actually give incentives to organizations. So I feel like a bulk of the 22 that are not being done are actually the ones that we should have focused on. So I feel like a lot of the chunks that are not done yet are ones that are, as you said, are really needed. So it's in there. We just have to make sure we fund it and get it done, right, and see it through.
Thank you. Thank you
You're very
so
welcome.
much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Letnier-Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Eleanor Rouget-Merlionez. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. Welcome.
Thank you. Dear Mrs. Carroll, Mr. Layton, Mr. Crawford, dear City Council members, bonjour. My name is Eleanor Rougeau and I'm a student at the University of Toronto and I live in Ward 11. I know you've heard this already today, but this is important. I am coming today to ask you to vote in favor of fully funding Transform TO, which amounts to close to $1.5 million in new enhanced spending. Transform TO is a good start, and I would like to thank you for having shown support for it in the past. The first time I came to Toronto, I was a 16-year-old prospective U of T student. However, after only 1 week in the city, I fell in love with it so much that I told my parents I wanted to move here immediately and leave my small, beautiful town of south of France. And I did. I love the diversity, the kindness of the people, the parks and the trees, and 2.5 years later, I never hesitate to call Toronto home. But home, it seems, is threatened by something that is not so new anymore, climate change. Toronto, like so many other places, is going to face the consequences of climate change. This includes floods, heat waves, storms, cold episodes, and much more. It is going to affect some people more than others, starting with marginalized communities. Homelessness, for example, is already a crisis in Toronto. Let's not make it worse. On a global scale, the effect of human action on our ecosystems constitute a long and horrifying list that I will spare us here. I'm here to ask you today, as a student, as a concerned citizen, and most importantly, as part of a generation that is genuinely afraid for what is to come, that you help us deal with climate change as effectively as we can. Please vote in favor of fully funding the Transform TO plan. The science is clear. We have 11 years at most. It matters to me that the plan is funded because it is so important that we achieve the deep retrofits of building around Toronto and that we provide the public with clear information about that program and clear metrics. It is also important that we continue to see resources allocated to the community engagement aspect. It is thanks to many community initiatives that I was able to learn about Transform TO and about all the other actions I could take in every single aspect of my life to contribute to the necessary global fight against climate change. Toronto needs to be and feel like a sustainable city, and that's why community engagement matters. Please also help Toronto make a leader in terms of sustainability, and with that, a leader in terms of quality of life for all. Please help us have good transportation and safe bike lanes so we reduce our carbon emissions by significantly reducing car usage. I bike to school, and in the summer, I like to bike to work. I love biking, but sometimes it's not that safe and not that easy to get around Toronto by bike. And finally, please help us plan ahead. As the 2030 targets approach, the time to plan and budget for them are even closer. And given the severity of the ecological crisis, I'm afraid the budget that will be needed to reduce our net emissions by 65% compared to 1990 levels will be consequent. I therefore hope initiatives to raise revenue will be considered soon. As someone paid taxes for the first time ever this year, I see why the measures are unpopular. However, I've heard good ideas, especially today, about reinstating the vehicle registration tax, for example, and I hope they will all be considered. By doing this, you will be sending a reassuring message to the youth that is so uncertain about the future. And trust me, we really need it. Je vous remercie sincèrement de m'avoir écouté aujourd'hui. I sincerely thank you for your attention and dedication to the city.
Thank you. Seeing no questions? Thank you very much. Next is Ellen Golden. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, councillors, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today. My name is Elin Golden. I am the Social Justice and Advocacy Consultant with the Anglican Diocese of Toronto. I am also a resident of Toronto, a homeowner, a vehicle owner, and somebody who's passionately concerned in my private life as well as my public and professional life about these issues. At the Anglican Diocese of Toronto, our three broad social justice priorities are poverty reduction, affordable housing and homelessness, and the environment. And all of those are issues that our municipal government is uniquely poised to take action on. And many other people today have spoken about all of these, including the young woman who just spoke on the environment and the impassioned parent, who's Kate, Bridget, who spoke this morning. What my concern, the concern I'd like to focus on today is about housing. We have a lot of challenges in this city. Our population is growing and aging. I have heard that from your own community and social services staff that over 50% of the employed population is precariously employed. It's the highest level of youth unemployment in Canada. I know from studies that have been done that 1 in 5 Torontonians live in poverty and 1 in 4 children, which is some of the highest rates, especially in southern Canada. Toronto Centre has 40% child poverty. So a recently released Toronto housing market analysis commissioned by the Affordable Housing Office projects almost double the rate of population growth to 2041 from what we've experienced since 2006. This will result in a significant increase in housing demand. In the absence of government intervention and action across the housing continuum, Toronto's low and moderate income households will face a grim situation. This will produce consequential challenges for equity, cohesion, and economic prosperity in the city. And already we are seeing a crisis. Next week, I will be with others outside the Church of the Holy Trinity, lamenting the people who have died because of homelessness. We have appreciated Councillor Wong Tam's initiative and other councillors' initiatives in raising awareness of the seriousness of homelessness, but it seems that we continue to call for shelter beds and we get respite centers, and so we move from wanting housing to wanting shelter, from wanting shelter to wanting respites, and even a place for people to sit. And it's not sufficient. We need to increase our investments across the housing continuum, from warming centers and shelters to transitional housing and supportive housing to full housing. The Housing Now initiative is a good step, but it's a good first step, but it's not nearly enough. To make 1/3 of the housing available through the Housing Now initiative affordable in terms of 80% of average market rent is ridiculously unaffordable for most people. It's as if you would build a bridge 20% across a ravine and say, okay, you're on your own, jump the rest of the way. You can't expect people who are precariously employed, who are low income or even moderate income, to be able to afford homes like this. I'm concerned also that we're falling further behind on state of good repair, especially for Toronto community housing. The backlog is expected to grow by 80% over the next 10 years, from $1.76 billion to $3.16 billion, if no further investments are made. And the affordable housing waiting list is currently over 100,000 households in Toronto and is expected to rise to over 110,000 households in 2019 and up to 118,000 households in 2021. 87% of renters with incomes under $30,000 a year are spending much more than 30% of their income on housing, as recommended by the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Association. And lack of affordability is a key driver of homelessness. We need investment in deeply affordable units. Now, I was inspired this morning before I came to note that the City of Ottawa has just announced a $15 million investment for affordable housing, considering their relative size to us. That's good. To double the number of affordable units to be built in this next year. And they have announced a property tax increase of 3%. And I noticed that the residential property tax increase is only 2.55%, and the blended tax increase is only 1.8%. We can pay more. You keep being told nobody wants to pay more taxes. Please, we can pay more. I own a property. I own a property in this city because I had the luck to be able to afford it just before the rents really started going out of control, or the prices really started going out of control, and it's now worth twice as much as it was 10 years ago when we bought it. Because of that stroke of luck, I think I can afford to pay more than $8.67 extra a month. I could pay $12 extra a month or more. I encourage you to make above inflationary increases to property taxes, and also to look at other revenue tools. The City of Toronto Act permits a number of tools, including among other things, motor vehicle registration tax and parking levies. I believe, as other commentators have said, that people who have cars in this city should be able to pay an extra amount to drive them and to register them and to park them in the city. That would increase our ability to pay for road repairs. It would increase our ability to pay for the TTC, would get people out of their cars and onto the TTC and non-emissions kind of transport like bicycling, and it would help our climate situation. So I invite you to consider these revenue tools so that we can make Toronto a truly livable city for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any questions?
Next is Jim O'Reilly.
Good afternoon. In the style of sports radio phone-ins, I'm a long-time listener and first-time caller, so first time I've been here. My name is Jim O'Reilly. I'm a resident of University Rosedale. I work with a charitable foundation that funds educational and environmental initiatives in the City of Toronto. I work with a youth education charity in Regent Park that promotes youth education on bicycle maintenance and youth leadership, and I volunteer with the Green Party. I'm here today to revisit with you road tolls and transit. As you know, Toronto is the only city in Ontario that has to pay to maintain its own controlled access intra-urban highways, that is the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardiner. Those costs were downloaded onto the City of Toronto in the 90s by the Harris government, and since 2003, Toronto has paid more than $1 billion in maintenance for those roads, which converted could be seen as the equivalent amount to a Scarborough LRT. These highways serve residents of Toronto, of course, but as well they serve commuters coming into the city, and thus we have the situation where our Toronto taxes pay for the maintenance of roads that non-Torontonians use at no cost. It is time again for the City of Toronto to seek the power to collect tolls on the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardiner in order to fund transit. Now, I cannot stress enough that this is not breaking ground in terms of public ownership of revenue-generating highways in the GTA. A major owner of the 407 is the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, and revenues from tolls go to fund the pensions of Canadians. And so this is already being done. I realize that there are 3 requirements if one is going to introduce a new toll: simplicity, fairness, and transparency. In terms of simplicity, therefore, what we have to propose is that there is one single fee, all vehicles, any distance, anytime the highways are used, those 2 highways are used. Fairness. We have to propose that the toll, the amount of the toll, is exactly pegged to the price of one TTC fare, that they be exactly the same. When there are TTC fare increases, there would be equivalent toll increases. And transparency. All net revenues from the program go to fund, first, Wheel-Trans, second, TTC, and the operation of the TTC. We can then put road tolls in the context of the following question: why are we saying to commuters when they arrive at the Etobicoke Creek or the top of the Don Valley Parkway that they have 2 choices? They can take transit, that we in Toronto support, but they have to pay. Or they can drive, which we in Toronto support, but they don't have to pay. So really, the cost of both transportation options, transit and driving, should be equivalent. And as you know, it's not a new idea. Mayor Tory requested that power in December of 2016, and the Premier at the time, Kathleen Wynne, as well as the 2 opposition parties, denied Toronto's request. But every major report in Ontario in the last 5 years acknowledged that the only way to deal with Toronto's traffic congestion is to charge drivers something for using the roads. In terms of the work that we've done so far, we have conducted a large poll and a petition campaign within our downtown neighborhood, and we got 2,800 signatures that we delivered to Kathleen Wynne at the legislature in at the beginning of 2018. The benefit for the remaining drivers who pay the tolls, I mean, our object is to get drivers off the road and onto transit, and our object is to pay for transit and have a revenue source for that. But the benefit for the remaining drivers who pay the tolls will be that they will spend a significantly smaller amount of time in traffic, and that will help to solve our traffic problems. I would say, perhaps then, as a final alternative, that we return to Queen's Park and say that if that power is not granted to Toronto, that Queen's Park, again, upload those costs of the highway maintenance to the province where it should be. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Councillor Layton has a question.
I've never seen the number pulled out. Do you know what the maintenance number is for the Gardner and the DVP? If
you know,
I'm sure I can ask. So, but I'm just wondering if you know.
I in fact don't know.
Top of your head.
No, I don't know.
Would you have? So, I have supported tolls in the past. I've supported most revenue tools that have been put before council. One of the challenges with tolls that doesn't exist with some other revenue tools is the cost of collection, which is why in this budget, I've been quite open about it. I'll be favoring a vehicle registration tax, partly because we can do it and we don't need to ask Premier Ford. But the cost of collecting is such a different, like it's almost non-existent compared to tolls where it's about 30%. So every 30 cents of every dollar you collect or thereabouts, you got to collect $1.30 to make $1, and that 30 cents is paid to whoever is collecting the money. And it seems wasteful. Now, if you're trying to use it as a tool for limiting and discouraging vehicle traffic, that's quite a different thing.
Right.
It's just at that point in time, you don't want the money because you're trying to get people not to drive. So it's like we're stuck in a position here that a toll, while might work in some ways, is terribly inefficient at collecting revenue. And again, this comes from a place that I support both.
I would say that, but I would say at least it's collecting it from the right people, the people who are the users of the road, who are not residents of Toronto, who are creating, have their share in creating the need for maintenance. And so at least it collects it from those people who, I mean, it's not exactly a user pay, well, I guess it is pretty much a user pay system. And I think I can see why an objection to a vehicle tax to pay for things like that may be that people in Toronto say, but I'm not actually the main users of those roads. So I would say that although there are inefficiencies in collection, at least it does target those who are using the road.
Then you end up with a problem about people who try to evade, and that's a problem they're getting out of the 403 that connects to the 407. I think it's whichever one's out the Oshawa way. The neighbors in that community have grown, since they told it, have grown increasingly frustrated of people that just are trying to skirt around. It's a bit different in Toronto because you'd be skirting a whole long way down down Woodbine or like down any of the east-west streets,
Lake Shore, yeah,
or trying to get down King Street, Queen, or otherwise. But they've grown increasingly frustrated, and
I agree, and I think that one has to be careful of extremely punitive tolls. But I think the acceptance, the issue is, what do you do so that a toll is accepted symbolically? And I think if you make the toll the same, if you peg it to the price of a TTC fare, no one can complain that it's an unfair toll. So yes, they might drive off the road, but I really think that would be a minimal issue at the price.
You also might have just found a whole bunch of other people that would fight the current fare increase on the TTC if you were talking about increasing their toll as well. But thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Next is Susan Bender.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to start by thanking and giving deep appreciation to the thoughtfulness and care of the previous deputants. I found it really powerful, and and it gives me a lot of hope. I think we all agree that Toronto has a housing and homelessness crisis, and Toronto has an overdose crisis. And there is much to be done to change the situation. And Toronto City Council needs to ensure that there is funding to support people living these crises and to turn this situation around. I'm the manager of the Toronto Drop-In Network. And these crises make it even more important to ensure that people who are most at risk of harm are both safe and connected. And drop-ins all across the city of Toronto do much of just that work. Marie, who was a previous deputant, spoke about the survey of drop-in participants that was done by the Members Advocacy Committee of St. Stephen's. This time last year, Councillor Mihevik responded to that report and put forward a motion that was supported at Community Development and Recreation Committee and City of Toronto. And it focused on enhanced funding for drop-ins, and particularly for mental health, employment, and transportation supports. And he said, because the role that drop-ins play in eviction prevention, supporting social inclusion, health and well-being, and reducing experiences of homelessness. There are many people who have been speaking to the importance of affordable public transit and funding for the Fair Pass program, and TDIN supports those calls. Absolutely, we understand the affordability of public transit makes many more things possible for people. I want to focus on responding to the crises facing people who are homeless and street involved, and the really intensifying levels of distress, of unrelenting stress, and of mental health and substance use crisis that are happening in drop-ins every day. The Toronto Drop-In Network is made up of 49 organizations that run 53 drop-ins, most of the respite services, the out-of-cold programs, and other outreach programs. Only 28 of those are funded by the city at the moment. And that's the only statistic I really want to share with you today. Mostly I want to recognize the vital work that drop-ins do across the city, and mostly with very little funding. And just to point out that in this budget, you have an opportunity to secure an increase through the Shelter, Support and Housing Administration budget asks, and there's two of them. One is around a 1% increase in the core funding for drop-ins, and the other one is 3 additional positions that would be shared across that network. And I'll talk a little bit more about why both of those things would be very beneficial for our communities. I think all of you have received a letter from Toronto Drop-In Network that we wrote on behalf of our members to welcome you in your role as city councillors, and just to share a little bit more information about drop-ins. And I know a lot of you are very familiar with the drop-ins in your neighborhood, and you're familiar with some of the push and the pull reasons why people are coming to drop-ins. Drop-ins really are permanent places where people who can't afford a coffee in a coffee shop, or they don't feel welcome in their own neighborhoods, they can't afford food or recreation or to do laundry, basic things like having a meal with other people and having a shower. When doctors and other service providers don't want to or are unable to provide access to care, drop-ins can provide that connection, immediate and dignified access to health and psychosocial supports and information and referrals at the right time, the right services. Drop-ins are also places where people go after the out of the cold close, when they don't want to stay 24 hours in a 24-hour respite. And once the respite's closed down, the drop-ins are still there as such a critical part of the community. And because we drop-ins are able to keep people safe and keep people connected, we make a big difference in terms of people's ability to access support, to keep their housing, to prevent homelessness, and to continue the community that so many people find in a drop-in space. So the first recommendation about a 1% increase to funding for drop-ins. Drop-ins, this will be the first increase for many drop-ins in many years. A lot of drop-ins are just have had to cut hours, have had to cut programs, are cobbling together money, and close to 10 of our drop-ins have budgets of less than $50,000. So adequate funding means Primarily, we have the time to build the relationships with people in drop-ins that allow us to do our work and is a unique part of what we do. The second recommendation is the funding for the 3 new positions that can provide more intensive support to people who are at high risk of harm. There's a small group of people who are experiencing a lot of crises, and we don't have the supports in place in drop-ins to actually work with them, and they're struggling the most.
You'll have to wrap up, please.
Okay. Just to be able to respond to that growing and deepening complexity that people are experiencing in their lives. So I really urge that you support those as first steps and advocate for at least a cost of living increase for drop-ins.
Thank you. Councillor Longtown.
Yes, thank you very much for your deputation, Susan. With respect to the 1% request for, I guess, the overall drop-in budget, what does that equate to?
Well, apparently the city provides funding for 28 drop-ins. It's about $7 million. That includes the 24-hour women's drop-ins, both of them. So 1% of that is.
Okay, so then therefore the 24-hour women's drop-ins, which we've heard from them numerous times, they've almost turned into de facto shelters now. Women sleeping in chairs underneath tables, what would be a capacity that would have been capped at 50 individuals is now stretched to the limit of 75 and 80. Would a 1% increase help that particular service provider?
Well, it would be included in their budgets, but obviously we're speaking in the context of the ongoing crises, and as crises unfold in different spaces, people are also being service restricted, and the drop-ins that are the most committed to low barrier are trying their very best to work with people who are restricted everywhere else. And that's when I refer to reducing the harm, trying to keep people safe and connected. If they're restricted from sistering, there's nowhere to go. So there's additional kind of like core funding, but then some of these other supports that will allow for like really intensive work in case management and crisis support for folks who are going to the 24-hour women's drop-ins, I think, are experiencing incredible pressures.
So the individuals that are accessing the drop-ins, let's say they're not 24 hours, but they're just the one coming in for a cup of coffee, it gives your workers and your volunteers a chance to connect with them, build relationships, perhaps deepen the opportunity for service delivery in case they are not being served anywhere else, because these are individuals that don't necessarily have a primary care provider. They don't necessarily have a housing worker, but they happen to come to drop-in because it's low barrier. So really the drop-in ends up being a wonderful place for them to gain access to additional services if they weren't provided elsewhere. Is that correct?
I think, yes, it is. It's really a hub, but I also want to emphasize, and I think you'll hear it from other people deputing today, that there's a community that people can really contribute to, and that community will sustain people when they are housed. And we all know of folks who are housed and they still return to the drop-in, and it enables those connections, that sense of value and identity, and being able to be involved is a key component of drop-ins, enables people to thrive and to keep their housing as well, and then turn and assist their neighbor.
And so then the individuals that are using these drop-ins, like they could be coming from anywhere across the city. So it's not that people would generally go to the local drop-in. They could be crossing town to go to the drop-in that they prefer. And are they coming from TCHC buildings? Are they coming from shelters? Are they coming from rooming houses? Where are they coming from?
I've really appreciated the diversity within the Toronto Drop-In Network. There are drop-ins that have been embedded in the communities for decades, and the folks who come are very much people who live in the community. And then there are drop-ins where people travel very far. They've made a connection. There's areas in the city where there's maybe one drop-in So people will travel for that, and they're coming from all sorts of situations, like absolute homelessness, being street involved, you know, couch surfing, but from TCH, from rooming houses. The diversity of people who both use drop-ins and then our ability to kind of respond to those needs is something I think that's really quite unique to drop-ins.
If you don't get the 1% increase in the budget, what happens in 2019?
What happens in 2019? You mean for the drop-ins?
Yeah, if it's not on, if you don't get the 1%, if you don't get the money that you're looking for, the money that staff identified as essential, because I know it came through CDR, but if we don't fund it, what happens to the state and the quality of the drop-ins in 2019?
We've already seen programs closing, hours shrinking, and actually for staff, perhaps they're not getting a cost of living increase, which makes it increasingly difficult to retain staff who've got the relationships with community members. So there's a lot of knock-on effects for that. And organized community if a drop-in is housed in a community organization, there's not an endless capacity to absorb the costs of living, of electricity and water and those things. So each organization will reach a point where they have to make some pretty drastic decisions.
Thank you.
And it's cumulative. Like, this is the first time that there's been an ask to advocate for in quite a while, but this has been going on for quite some time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next is Julia Pan. Was actually, and Georgina Valandra?
Yeah.
The two, okay. Both from Middle Childhood Matters Coalition.
Good afternoon. My name is Georgina. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our lived experience in our children's recreational and out-of-school programs. We are parents leader with the Middle Child Matter Coalition Toronto, which is an active group of social service agencies and community members working together to increase access to high-quality out-of-school programs for all children aged 6 to 12 in Toronto. I am a working mother who lives in the Parkdale neighborhood with my children 6 and 12-year-old who attend out-of-school programs. I can tell you that out-of-school programs fulfill an urgent need for low-income parents and children living in my neighborhood that have many newcomers and multicultural families. It is very hard for us as caring parents to find high-quality, accessible, and affordable programs for our children. We want them to be enrolled in programs that support their social and personal skills, as well as impacting their life positively while we are working more than one shift to ensure our basic needs are met, so we are able to pay our rent along with other expenses. Have a peace in mind that the out-of-school programs are keeping our children off the street and away from violence. I want to say that funding out-of-school programs for children aged 6 to 12 keeps them safe and once again away from violence. Thank you.
Okay, I will be reading on behalf of Julia. I'm not Julia. I am a single mom with 2 boys who are 5 and 6 years old, living in the Dundas at Bloor West neighborhood. I have a part-time survival job. I am well engaged in my community, and I hear from other families their needs to children's program in our neighborhood, and I came today to speak on their behalf. We want to make sure that successful programs are sustainable and continue to be available for low-income, newcomer, and underserved neighborhood and communities. Both of my children are in licensed childcare offered by the city. This would not be possible without the subsidy I receive. Toronto has very expensive childcare, which I couldn't afford if it wasn't for the city support. I feel lucky to receive this. However, I know many families in Toronto must do without. I would like to see that children are taken care of, learning new skills, building friendships, and a sense of belonging while parents work and continue to be productive. In the end, we hope that you will remember our stories as you take decisions regarding out-of-school programs in 2019 city budget. Families always want sustainable, affordable, accessible, and high-quality programs for our children 6 and 12 years in our communities. Thank you again for listening to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next is Hamish Wilson.
Thank you for being here. I wish there were more of you. I really feel that the forced shrinking of the council is going to have a lot of harms to us all. You're really stretched, and things are going to fall between the cracks. So that's one of the ways that I think we can be penny wise and forward foolish. Please try and get a different long-term perspective on the quality of investments to really be effective over the long term and save money. This is a combination of capital and operating budgets. I'd also suggest that we need a carbon budget as well. I'm glad other people have mentioned just how dire the climate crisis actually is. I think we should be calling it climate breakdown, and we're not actually as green and as good as we might think sometimes. We have in these two budgets, the capital and operating, I think we have the continued issue of user pay for some and a tilt away to free rides for others. It's a car-servative city, I get it. The cars are very helpful to have, and they're very useful sometimes when the weather is not good. But there's an awful lot of hidden subsidy and direct subsidy to them. This is an old stat, and I keep sharing this around from years past, just to indicate the scale of the hidden subsidies and the less obvious subsidies to automobiles. This is from Vancouver, $2,700 per car per year, about 7 times the amount that we subsidize public transit. That's an awful lot of money that's off the table, and when we're talking about jacking the TTC fares up again, it's really unfair to go ahead with that without a vehicle registration tax. So you've got to put in something, I'd suggest at least $100. That probably would bring in about let's see, when we had one, it was 60 million, so it'd be about $100 million a year worth of income. I think that's well, really overdue. We really need it. It should be targeted, to be fairer. Should go to the TTC and to the roads department, because this is another thing that we have, is that we're neglecting our roads. They're in really, they're not the opposite of ship shape, and I don't think I could actually say what I think they are becoming, but they're really, really rough. And it's dangerous. It's not just for the potholes and stuff. As cyclists, you feel the bumps a lot more, and it's not okay to have standards to be able to drive over rubble and say that's okay. No, every road should be cyclable, and it can't just be in the curb section. And this is where the interplay of climate change affecting us is actually occurring as well, in that the water tends to concentrate in the gutter, which is where cyclists are supposed to ride. You have the increase in the freeze-thaw cycles from all this weird weather, where we're getting rain today. Maybe today we're having a thunderstorm of all things, and then it's going down to really cold over the weekend. As water freezes, it expands. So if you've got something that's really fragile and in rough shape and rubbleized already, it's just going to make it a whole lot worse. So by ignoring roads and their maintenance, you're going to have a huge bill coming in later. And that's going to be costly, and that's not okay. It's like ignoring housing repairs. It's not okay to ignore housing repairs, because then you have to toss the whole thing out, and that's environmentally destructive as well as a big cost. So you've got to make sure that you invest in maintenance. Here's another thing in terms of property tax. Again, this is older. If we actually shifted away from property tax to user pay for the cars, there's highlighted something, a 40% decrease in residential property taxes. It's a shame that we actually, that was a suggestion from decades ago, it's a shame that when we talk about inflation and keeping tax hikes in the realm of inflation, we don't talk about the inflation in housing. One earlier deputant said that their property had doubled in value in about 10 years. Yes, it's appreciation to some degree, but to a large degree it's inflation in housing, and so we've got to address that. In terms of being smarter about our budget and squeezing the billions, and all in favor of squeezing the billions, I am, Scarborough subway extension is not a good investment for the billions, quite honestly. Yes, we need to spend money out there. Yes, Scarborough people have a horrible issue with getting around, but it doesn't make enough sense. It's not good value. I've shared this around before. I don't think this chart is online. That's one indicator of how bad the Scarborough subway extension is compared with LRTs. We should go that way. Here's something from, again, about 2 years ago. Transit experts don't agree with what's being done. It doesn't make sense to extend the Danforth line at such a great cost when the LRT would actually do. Or a set of them. Yes, we have, and I've been proffering this particular set of options to improve transit in Scarborough, and I've got a 3-in-1 relief project, including up Don Mills Road. I wish we would spend money on planning and not so much on just going ahead with things. In terms of other things that we're being unfortunately led down that are not good expenditures of money, I have to highlight the Gardner cost. I think that's we may be too embarked upon it already, unfortunately, with contracts being signed, but maybe you could suggest to the province, here's a little letter that I had here, why don't the Conservatives steal the Gardner instead and leave the TTC alone? That might be a really good idea. Suggest to them as a motion from council, hey, take the Gardner instead, please. And in terms of other things as well, I think the bike budget has an item for a bridge over the tracks near the Gardner for $12 million, and I don't think that's a bike-friendly thing. I think you should be thinking about putting, say, the extension of Richmond-Adelaide over the Don River to have subway relief or transit relief over the Don River to connect up with Eastern. That's a better use of funds. And speaking of subway relief, for the price of paint, I'm still waiting for a continuous bike lane on Bloor Danforth. It's been so long. It'll be cheap subway relief for the price of paint. Why are we not able to do some of the things?
Thank you, Hamish. Thank you. Appreciate that.
This year?
Next is there's a sort of a substitution with Joel Klassen, Ismail Afra from Access to Recreation.
Good afternoon, councillors. My name is Ismail Afra, and I am from Access to Recreation. Thank you, councillors, for the work that you're doing today, listening, thinking, and reflecting on what residents and community members have to say when it comes to how the City of Toronto spends its $13 billion budget. It's very hard to pay attention to so many voices, but that is the hard, good work. We are thankful you will do well. Allow me to add to those voices, hoping you are hearing, thinking, and reflecting on our concerns. Let me start by defining the issue I will speak about. The Access to Recreation Group was formed at the early stages of the revitalization. The purpose of the group is to increase access to recreation for low-income families and residents underserved by existing services and programs. Residents and community members are your eyes and ears on the ground to inform you how well something is going and what course corrections are needed. Regent Park has undergone significant revitalization in recent years, but remains a community in transition, progress, and a neighborhood improvement area. The new challenges that we see on the ground is that services and programs that the community had access 100% to, we are now struggling to access. The reality of our challenges is coming to light, and thanks to the support of Councillor Wong Tam and the Economic and Community Development Committee, we are beginning to take some steps. On January 16, 2019, the Economic and Community Development Committee took our experiences and the issues we identified seriously, and had asked that Parks and Rec to work with our group, the Access to Recreation, to resolve some of the problems of the lack of access to recreation programs for low-income families, and to report back to the committee. The Economic and Community Development Committee has also asked a report on the implementation of the revitalization and the implementation of the social development plan with respect to access to services and building complete communities. We know that the city has its own processes and reports are essential to make informed decisions, but we're also grateful to the committee to refer an item to Budget Committee that can ease the problems we face in our community starting this year. The pilot project we are asking you to fund is a 2-year pilot in partnership with the local schools and the Aquatic Center that currently exists to create a Learn to Swim program with the Regent Park Public Schools, Lord Dufferin and Nelson Mandela beginning in July 2019. This program will help aquatic competencies and pathways to employment for local children and youth, and it is also will resolve, at least in the beginning, the complex barriers to traditional means of program registration. This pilot could be launched in the fall of 2019 and would provide participants aged 8 to 15 with access to Swim to Learn programs and the Toronto Sports Leadership Program, which provides youth with aquatic leadership certification. Funding for this pilot is not included in the 2018 staff recommended operating budget, but is part of the enhanced services and program. The financial implication for this pilot is $160,000 in total. Group members and community members will depute this evening, and you will see and hear the problem from community members firsthand. I believe we can work together to resolve these issues, whether through informed decision-making through reports and by making investments. We ask that you invest the $160,000 that is needed for youths to learn to swim and gain the competencies and employment opportunities in the future. We've learned from first-hand experience that many of the youths, when Parks and Rec does offer programs to hire youth, we found out that many of the youth neither know how to swim or know how to skate. And usually it is programs like these that are the most employment opportunities you can get from. So this ask from us to solve this issue is not, compared to the budgets that you're thinking about, it's not a huge ask, but it is a pilot program we're hoping could work and that it can be introduced to other neighborhoods where kids are struggling through the normal registration process to learn how to swim. Thank you for hearing me, and I hope you can help us through the budget process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wong Tam.
Yes, thank you very much, Ishmael, for your presentation. With respect to the pilot project that your organization is proposing to tap into the existing built facilities at Nelson Mandela as well as Lord Dufferin, conversations are underway, or have they been initiated with the TDSB already?
So yes, we have been working with the local schools, both Nelson Mandela and Lord Dufferin, and both principals have sent their approval to work with us to create these programs. And in their own letters, what they've said is that they've tried many times to get the programming going, and that they would really, they're hopeful that the city can facilitate a programming for their students as well.
And they're largely responding in such positive ways. The representatives from the TDSB is because they themselves are seeing that the youth that attend their schools, the students that attend their schools are prohibited, or perhaps there are existing barriers for their access of recreation needs through the Regent Park Aquatic Center, or perhaps the Regent Park Recreation Center. Is that correct?
Yes, across the city of Toronto, there's the registration process is very hard. There are long waiting lists also as there. But what we've also found is that local access is even greater, that we have a hard time accessing some of these facilities. Many of the parents have a hard time because they don't speak the language, they have a language problem, and also they don't have access to the high technology that's needed to get in line first. So many times, all across the neighborhood, many people are not accessing these programs, and the kids don't know how to swim. And what we found this out was, it was anecdotal to our own experiences, but actual city information came out that not enough of our local people are accessing. About 25% is what's been shown. So it seems like many of our kids don't know how to swim, don't know how to skate, and that when employment opportunities do come, they cannot take advantage of it.
And if they can't take advantage of those employment opportunities, and recognizing that the City of Toronto's Recreation Department is one of the largest employers of youth in terms of the summer jobs program, then those kids don't get to work in their own communities. Is that correct?
Yes, so they're not able to get employment. That means that all throughout the year, from when they start the age of 14 all the way to when they're going to university, they won't have employment opportunities as well. So this is, we found the problem can be stopped at multiple levels. One time, even when you bring employment opportunities, if they did not have opportunities to learn to swim, opportunities to build their competencies on many different areas. Even when opportunities do come in, it won't work. That's why we have to have preventative strategies along the age so that, they learn to swim from a younger age so that when employment opportunities come from 14, 15, and 16, they can take full advantage. And that is why I really appreciate the Economic and Community Development team to sort of work on this issue at a multiple level. They are getting a report back on services offered in the neighborhood in 2019. There's but this item, this pilot, is an ease that can solve the problem for us at hand. Because in 2019, if we can get this program in, that means kids at the age of in grade 6 and grade 7 could learn to swim, so that the problem is solved at multiple levels.
So therefore, the City of Toronto does not have to rush to develop another aquatic center. We don't necessarily have to sign or build new facilities. We just tap into the existing partners that are in the neighborhood within walking distance for the area, and the actual quantum asked for is $160,000.
Yes, and I think in many ways we spoke about collaboration, and I think in our own neighborhood, I was quite shocked to see that there's the Aquatic Center, the most beautiful center most of us have ever seen, and 1 block away is 2 different schools, middle schools, and there is no existing relationship between the 2 schools. So for me, it didn't quite make sense how these kids don't know how to swim when 1 block away there's a swimming institution there. So in terms of collaboration and getting a greater contribution, we have to get these schools partnered up with the Aquatic Center, and through this pilot project, we can find out. It's $160,000 asked, but if we see it working, if we see more kids learning to swim, more kids being able to transition to employment, then we can see that this is an effective way of doing something.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Layton.
So just so we're crystal clear, it's a $160,000 ask. It's serving youth from grade 7 and 8. I got to do some math. Mine's starting 1, she's 4, plus 7, so like 11, 12, 13, that age group. 2 schools, couple classes of school, like you're looking at a couple hundred youth in region getting a Swim to Survive programming.
So yes, it's 2 schools, students coming from those schools from the age of 8 to 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Eden Rosenberg.
Thank you, councillors, for your time. I just want to speak to you as someone who works for the City of Toronto and also as a resident. I work for Toronto Paramedic Services. I'm a full-time paramedic, and we're basically stretched to the breaking point at this time. We have a large number of part-time paramedics working right now. Most of them are working the equivalent of full-time hours, just with no benefits, no pension, no vacation. I'm on my week off. I've done over 40 hours of overtime, and we're still holding calls. Lower priority calls can sometimes wait an hour plus to get a response. We're spread to the breaking point. I can go into the numbers, which all you guys can read, and that really doesn't tell you much. But a day for us is generally you show up, you don't have a chance to stock your truck, you don't have a chance to inspect your equipment. You get a call immediately the second you walk in the door. Generally, it's been held for 10, 15 minutes, and then you're out for your whole shift. In our 12-hour shift, we're given a half-hour lunch. Generally, we don't get that, or it'll be as a token at the end of our shift. You'll get to the station at 6:30, and then from 6:30 till 7, you sit there and you get your lunch. I've had days where I've gone from finding a body that's been decomposing for 6 weeks, where that doesn't come off of me. And we're so busy to the point where I don't have a chance to go and do a uniform change and shower. I'm coming into someone's house and have to explain why the smell is on us. That is not good care. I've done stabbings recently where I called for advanced life support, And not even our dispatch isn't able to say that there's none in your area. There's just none available citywide. On a night shift in my quadrant out in Scarborough, we may have 1 to 2 advanced life support paramedics providing care from, well, we don't stay in our quadrants, but from Yonge and Eglinton, northeast of there. It's a massive area where we just don't have staff. Our call volume is increasing dramatically. We're at over 45,000 calls this year already. We're growing way over 12% a year. The stats say 5. I don't understand where that number came from. We're relying on basically the kindness of the paramedics to keep the job done and to keep everyone safe. We need to increase our first response units. Right now, for life-threatening calls, we send fire, which is 4 firefighters in a big fire truck. And they can provide care. They carry defibrillation and EpiPens and Narcan and that. What we need is first response units, where it's 1 paramedic who can provide all life-saving medications. It's not sustainable how it is now. We're basically just, it's the goodwill of the medics holding it together. Our dispatchers are doing the best that they can, our management's doing the best that we can, but we need more resources. We rely on York, Durham, and Peel. I did a call a couple days ago that was south of Finch for a vital signs absent. Somebody had died, and our nearest advanced life support was a York Region truck. That's pretty pathetic that we're not even able to have enough staffing in Toronto. And their response time was 10 minutes post. So it's really pushing us to the edge. It's providing really bad patient care when we take that long to get there. It's not giving people the best chance at life. And also it's just pushing us to the breaking point with PTSD, stress, and trying to keep on top of everything. The stats are there. I'm not going to go into them because, again, we all can read those. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wong Tam first.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for that very powerful deputation. I was just visualizing the day in life. With respect to the request that's before the Budget Committee today, and on the notes, what exactly are you asking for? Can you be specific with the quantums?
Absolutely. Right now, the budget says we're hiring 12 new paramedics. That's a drop in the bucket. That's not going to do anything. When I got hired, they hired 120 of us, and that was an increase. We need to have way more paramedics. We need way more advanced life support paramedics. It's not sustainable with the staffing levels we have now. There have been great advancements, the power cots, so we're not blowing our backs out as much, but we get injured. We are dealing with sick people. We use a lot of sick time because we're dealing with sick people. But we need to increase the staffing. It's not sustainable with 12 new medics this year, 5 of which are going to community paramedicine. So I'd like to see the staffing increase. That's the main thing.
And what is the proper complement in terms of increase?
We have, I wouldn't be able to get into that exactly because it's also, if you increase the staffing, you have to increase the amount of available ambulances and all that. I think that's something that somebody from our management would better be able to describe. But at my station, sometimes there'll be 2 ambulances sitting there unused during a shift. So that's 4 more paramedics needed in 1 station on 1 shift to give that area proper coverage.
And my understanding is that recently the stigma around PTSD is starting to sort of fall away. First responders are encouraged now to seek support. There is limited support when you are able to step forward and put up your hand and say, I need some help. Are people taking the leaves that they once did?
I think we're seeing a huge improvement in first responders accepting that PTSD isn't something to be ashamed of, and the stigma is going away. Our continuing medical education has been focused on that recently, and it's excellent, but we still are having suicides of first responders. There's no questioning that. And it is one of those things. We do see horrific things day to day, and you have your coping mechanisms. But definitely the stigma is getting better.
So oftentimes we hear about the Toronto Police and that there's a desire and a need to hire 200 officers. That number has come about for the past 12 months now, that we need these 200 officers. But when oftentimes a 911 call is placed, they send out everybody.
Absolutely.
And so that means that if there's a need for new officers, there's probably a need for also more paramedics. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and when it is a tiered response where it is police, fire, and EMS, it's more turning into police and EMS responding. If there's any hint of a medical emergency, we are going to it. So I've been to countless domestics before police get there, and it puts us in a very vulnerable position where I'm not supposed to go in. I'm not prepared for that. I don't carry weaponry, I don't carry body armor, but I know on the other side of the door somebody is being beaten. Or we're dispatched to an area to look for a drunk driver. I don't have the right to pull them over. I have to wait until they crash into another vehicle or stop, and then I can provide them aid. So we get put in a lot of very difficult decisions and very tricky things. And honestly, depending on who it is, sometimes you do want to go in and you want to stop somebody from being assaulted. But from a safety aspect, it's a horrible idea.
It's almost like sending the Toronto firefighters to come and resuscitate someone, but they happen to have gotten there first because they've got more people.
Exactly.
Perhaps a vehicle that was closer.
I sort of put it in the same realm of, you know, you call for a plumber and they're 12 hours away, but you can get an electrician who sort of knows what they're doing and can patch it together, and they're 4 hours away, so you do that. Doesn't make sense. No one does that. Right. But in emergency services, it's all too frequent.
So it could use a more coordinated overhaul review as well, not just about bringing more bodies into the crew.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Layton.
Thank you very much. Sometimes we can ask questions at budget of division heads, and we get an answer that sort of everything's okay because of the way we ask the question. Is there something specific we should be asking for that will help shed light on your experience?
We need more paramedics.
But is there, so is there a metric that I can ask for from staff that will help demonstrate the case for me to say we need more paramedics? That's what I need to bring the city council to say, like, we're calling York Region 100 times a year, or our delay in response time has gotten to X compared to where it should be.
I think if you look at the metric of our call volume, which is in the paperwork that I was able to find online regarding our budget, the call volume has spiked and our staffing volume has stayed neutral. We're basically just making up for retirements and people leaving. And that basically sums it up. Also, if it's a minor call where somebody's fallen down, there's no injuries, I've gone to those calls an hour and a half later. And somebody's mother's sitting there on the floor going, I know it's not an emergency, but I can't get up. And we see it all the time. It's a really bad situation.
So in that case, so there's different classifications of calls.
Yes.
And if we were to ask for some information about that, would it demonstrate that a longer wait time perhaps for less emergency calls?
Yes, absolutely. So it's basically we go A, B, C, D, E. A is the lowest priority. E is the highest priority. So if you look at the alpha level or the courtesy code 2s, you'll see that the wait time for that is generally pretty significant. Unless it's like a contributing factor like a winter storm and somebody's just fallen down outside, we will bump those up. But if it's just a day-to-day, somebody's fallen down in their home and can't get up, it's going to be trumped by somebody having chest pain, difficulty breathing, and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll, do you have a question?
I do. You mentioned the issue of there being a fair amount of the force that are part-timers.
Yes.
So when someone comes on stream part-time, if they get to the point where they're actually fulfilling full-time hours, they're working all week, how long do they remain in that position? They've proven we need an FTE, but they continue to be a part-time employee.
That's a great question. We just changed the ratio to make it actually worse. We're now allowed to have more part-time employees. I can tell you from speaking to them, because I'm friends with most of them, there's a very significant number who are on the sunshine list. And they're still part-time, which I don't understand how government is supposed to lead the way and show this is, the proper way to do things. It just seems abusive to me.
So that's probably one of the questions we should ask, as Councillor Layton says. What questions should we ask? Because our budgets are just all written in FTEs.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Even in parks where, thousands and thousands of people or a few hundred FTEs who cut the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we were, admitting to the complement we need, and some of these people were full-time, would that also lead to some stability and some improvement in the service?
Absolutely, and it leads to stability in their lives. When I was part-time, I lived by my pager. We actually still carry the Motorola pagers. And you live by it, because to make ends meet, you need to pick up your 20 shifts every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And if you miss that pager going off, that could be $400, $500 out of your pocket. And that also means your seniority drops, which means you wait longer to be full-time. So everything's seniority-based with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also want to take this opportunity to thank you and your colleagues, because 3 times this year, my father was the person you had to pick up off the floor. We have a number of citizens in this city who are of an age. He's a 6'3" bag of bones, and you were there. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I just say one more thing? What I'd recommend to all of the counselors is you can contact our union and you can arrange to come for a ride out and you can see what it's like firsthand. And I think that'd be really eye-opening. I've seen a few counselors out there, but the more you that come out, I think it would give you a really good understanding of how broken the system is between, having someone on a stretcher for 5 hours on offload delay, tying up a crew, and seeing the conditions we deal with. So I highly encourage it.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Next is Fiona Scott. And just quickly after that, there was Ronelle Bruder, who was on the list for this morning. We'll get you up next. Okay.
Hello, my name is Fiona Scott. I'm a researcher and program evaluator. I live in Ward 11. I'm here in support of the proposed programs under the Toronto Youth Equity Strategy, the More Life Skills Workshop Series, and Project Prosper. I've spent the last 20 years doing research on the root causes of social problems, including crime, as well as evaluations of programs to address these issues, including work on the 2 proposed programs. We know what causes crime and violence. In 2008, the province published the review of the roots of youth violence. At that time, through my 10 years of research in prisons and forensic psychiatric hospitals, I had come to the very same conclusions about the causes of crime. Around the world, the same conclusions have been made, that what happens in a child's life sets them on their paths. The trajectories are the same for young people who share similar experiences of poverty, family issues, lack of economic opportunity, and issues in the education system, unless they have the protective factors like positive relationships with peers and adults, positive experiences in education, family support, resources, knowledge, and skills to access meaningful employment, and life skills that help them manage stress and conflict and to achieve their life goals. Too many of our youth have none of these protective factors, and they are a rigorous process of research on the risk and protective factors, the evidence for effective interventions, best practices in youth engagement, as well as stakeholder and youth consultations. The More Life Workshop series helps young people learn life skills like setting and achieving goals, managing conflict, dealing with stress and trauma, financial management, and gaining employability skills. The workshops are taught by a group of diverse facilitators from across the city who come from the same communities as the youth who participate. The content is based on popular culture that young people can relate to. We have seen some very positive outcomes. Project Prosper provides case management to provide support and to facilitate access to a range of existing city and community-based services to connect young people to the services, opportunities, and networks that will help them make a positive transition back to the community and reduce the risk of recidivism. We created an evidence-based theory of change specific to the programs that we have piloted that shows how and why the programs will impact young people, as well as an evaluation framework to measure the outcomes. They have been piloted and evaluated to assess the process of implementing the programs as well as the outcomes. As an example of where this approach to violence has worked, last year on a trip to the UK, I met with staff of the Violence Reduction Unit in Scotland. Glasgow used to be the murder capital of Western Europe. Since the introduction of the Violence Reduction Unit, the murder rate has significantly reduced. They realized that what they had been doing to address violence wasn't working. What they were mostly doing was policing and punishing. They knew they needed to focus on the causes of these problems and to support young people to give them the opportunities, networks, and resources that we know are crucial for positive youth development. Scotland has a focus on addressing the impact of trauma because unfortunately many of our young people face significant trauma in their childhoods. witnessing domestic violence, experiencing family violence, witnessing and experiencing community violence, as we just heard about from our last speaker about, there's a lot of domestic violence going on. A lot of kids are growing up in foster care, they're experiencing loss of loved ones, and poverty are all experienced by many of our young people. Obviously, many of us experience trauma and don't go on to become involved in violence, but the difference is the other positive things that buffer those negative experiences. We also know why it happens like this because of what we know about brain development. We know from neuroscience what happens to the brain when a child experiences trauma and how and why it sets them on those paths. And 95% of the young people that we are locking up have experienced significant trauma in their lives. In 2017, the Correctional Investigator Canada and the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth published their report, Missed Opportunities, the Experience of Young Adults Incarcerated in Federal Penitentiaries. One of the examples in the report was of a young person who reported, "My mother taught me how to smoke crack when I was 12, and my dad is addicted to pills." These are the circumstances that young people are growing up in. The study also found that a quarter of youth who were in prison had been in foster and/or group homes, some having moved between as many as 50 group homes. The report has several recommendations, including providing consistent guidance and support, a community plan tailored to the needs of the young adults, facilitating appropriate interventions and services, and working with young people for at least 6 months, at least the last 6 months of their sentence to ensure they have support they require to successfully reintegrate back into the community. To conclude, we need to invest in prevention and providing protective factors to the young people who were simply born into circumstances that did not provide them. I recommend that the City of Toronto funds the More Life Skills Workshop Series and Project Prosper. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Layton, I think.
Sorry, the two programs that you mentioned really quickly at the end, Project Prosper and...
It's called the More Life Skills Workshop Series.
And do you know where they stand? I don't off the top of my head know where they stand in our existing recommendations.
They're the two recommendations under the Toronto Youth Equity Strategy.
Okay, so they both are included. Are they fully funded?
Currently, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Ronelle Bruder.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my deputation. My name is Ronelle Britter, and I'm a resident of Ward 13. I'm also a survivor of human trafficking, an advocate, and the founder of the RISE Initiative, a grassroots project to help support highly vulnerable youth. I'm here today to ask that the 2019 city budget include full funding for the Youth Equity Strategy, which would cover the 110 actions recommended in the strategy. As someone who's lived with lived experience overcoming homelessness, poverty, and exploitation, and through my work with youth, many who have similar shared experiences, I know the overwhelming need for the services outlined in the youth strategy. I'm not going to go through all 110 of the actions in the strategy, but rather I'd like to highlight that in its entirety, the strategy addresses many of the challenges that youth face, including access to mental health and substance use services, after-school programming that provides a safe place for young people to socialize, to learn, and to have fun, support for youth who have been incarcerated and to help them reintegrate back into their communities, creating opportunities for vulnerable youth to access affordable housing, economic and educational opportunities. Through my work, I've met so many young people that have so much potential. But because of the circumstances that they were born into, not a fault of their own, they have given up hope. Hope for their future and hope for themselves. And because of this, they become vulnerable. They become vulnerable to the predators that want to lure them into guns, gangs, and exploit them. By fully funding the Youth Equity Strategy, the city will demonstrate to these vulnerable youth, many of whom are racialized, marginalized, and typically overlooked, that the City of Toronto is dedicated to supporting their future success and helping them to become productive members of society. Last year, Toronto experienced record high gun violence. The youth strategy addresses the roots of gun violence, which is a multi-pronged approach to helping young people, the most vulnerable in our society. Originally, the strategy was estimated to need over $15 million to fully implement all the strategy, and to date has survived on less than $500,000 of annual funding. And so, in closing, I ask again that the Council vote to fully fund the Youth Equity Strategy in the 2019 budget. Thank you.
Councillor Wong-Tam.
Yes, thank you very much for your deputation. I'm not sure if you are aware, but the city staff have produced a budget note that essentially says that, that between 2015 and 2019, the City of Toronto has invested approximately $103 million to implement the Toronto Youth Equity Strategy, and that it will be fully implemented by the end of this year if Council puts up another $2.6 million. But the numbers you just quoted are very different than the numbers that we have in this budget briefing note. So putting those numbers aside, and I'm sorry for the long question, the conditions that young people are living with in their neighborhoods, in the communities, have they received more opportunities, more services, more youth hubs, longer library hours? Are they getting access to after-school programs that are so critical?
Yes, and first off, so I apologize if my numbers were incorrect. And yes.
I don't think that your numbers are correct. What I'm just saying is that there seems to be two different sets of
numbers. Oh, okay.
I'm not disputing your numbers,
okay.
Nor am I going to dispute the staff number.
Okay.
They're just too wildly different.
Fair enough. So what I have observed, and in talking with young people, is that there are services, and they're available, and they are using them. The problem seems to be that a lot of times programs will start, they'll be funded for a short period of time, but they won't have operational funding, and so they'll only last maybe 6 months or a year. And so a young person begins a program, starts to learn maybe arts or sports or something, and then it's taken away from them. And I think that's almost as damaging, if not more, than not having them at all.
And so by way of the start and stop process or programs that we've set up in the city, in order for us to really tackle the roots of youth violence and youth marginalization, we really need to build a fully integrated, long-term funded program, one that's not before us anymore. Because if we're going to be done, because the Youth Equity Strategy says by the end of 2019 we're done, there's really not a strategy moving forward unless we create a new one or extend this existing one in 2020 and beyond. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think you're absolutely correct. It needs to be something that's sustainable. I think sort of in the interim, the Youth Equity Strategy is the best thing that's in place. And having that available and having that fully funded will at least ensure that young people have these services that they need, that are vital to their success. But I do agree that, yes, something that is long-term and that has full funding would be something that would be optimal.
My last question is that there will be some pivots, probably some decisions made before council, because oftentimes we're asked to choose between column A and column B. And one of them around community safety is always tied to policing. And there is a request from Toronto Police. Their budget is over $1 billion today. There's a recommendation for another $30 million, which far exceeds anything in the Youth Equity Strategy. What is a better investment of city dollars that are limited?
I mean, in my personal opinion, I believe that funding youth services and organizations and services that will help our youth is a much better investment than funding, I think, additional funding to the police. Of course, we need to have police. We need to make sure they're fully funded. However, these young people need these services. If they do not have them, we've seen it, we know what happens. They're much more likely to enter into gangs, into violence, and just engaging in risky behaviors.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the sustainability of these programs to underscore it. and it didn't come to council, so it probably won't have seen many headlines, but at the same time that Councillor Wong Tam and Councillor Matlow were moving, tell us what you're doing with the youth equity strategy, we also moved a motion that said, and you've got a year to report back on the successes, the successful programs, and how you would make them sustainable into the long term. It's not just there was something there for this one youth and then it was gone for him. It's also, isn't it difficult to do what you do and to serve them and counsel them when something works for a youth, but a year later you've got another youth sitting in front of you, but you don't know if you can send them to the same place because it probably disappeared. We've had that since the summer of the gun funding influx. In 2006, we got the Youth Challenge Fund, and 3/4 of those things are gone now. And then we've given some funds for the youth equity strategy, but $1 million in grants is gone in a year. So how do you keep track of where to refer youth to?
Yeah, and I think that is the challenge, is that there isn't necessarily the consistency with the programming and the services always available. And so for me, when I work with young people, I mean, I partner with other NGOs, so nonprofit organizations, but I know that's a complaint or that's a concern that a lot of times that they'll bring up is that this is the program that they had, that they sent a lot of youth to, but it no longer exists.
It was great, but it's gone.
Yeah, and so now what do you do? And they're just trying to do the best with what they have. I mean, resources are short, but they're just trying to do the best to help young people.
So there is consultation built into the work that will be done this year. I hope they will talk to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jonah Brotman. Jonah Brotman. Okay. Jerry Bank. Welcome.
Thank you. It's Jerry Banks.
Oh, Jerry Banks, okay. So you've got 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Jerry Banks, and I'm going to speak to you about the need to fund homelessness prevention programs for downtown Toronto. I was a recluse. I stayed on my couch and only left my apartment to walk my dog. The door to my bedroom actually seized. That's how much I stayed in one spot. I lived that way for many years. Drug addiction and depression complicated the situation, and I ended up $4,500 in arrears in rent. I connected to a trusteeship program at the Neighborhood Information Post to help me with my arrears in rent. It was hard to pay every month, and at times I wanted to drop out of the program. But through perseverance and continued direction from the trusteeship program, we managed to pay off the total amount. One of the things that the Neighborhood Information Post continues to help me with is paying my rent each month. Paying the rent each month seems like an easy task, and it is for most of us, but not all of us. Having income such as OAS or ODSP or CPP is no guarantee that a person will pay their rent. Many residents living in community housing are living with mental illness and addiction issues, which can make the simple act of writing a check or making a bank transfer to a landlord a very difficult task. Without the help of a trustee or other social providers, these people could end up homeless despite the fact that they have a steady income. With the aging population and an increase in dementia and Alzheimer's, the people needing the help of trusteeship programs will grow each year. Many seniors in downtown Toronto are at risk, particularly on check days, because of nefarious individuals who take advantage of their vulnerability. The trusteeship program also helps seniors who experience isolation by encouraging them to budget their money and making weekly visits to the office to obtain their personal allowance, thereby increasing their social interaction. There are many different roles a person can take on to prevent homelessness. A housing worker, a shelter worker are but two. But sometimes it's not enough just to find a person a home. It's also a big challenge to keep them in that home. This is another way in which a trusteeship program can prevent homelessness. In closing, I'd like to thank the Neighborhood Information Post for their patience and understanding, continued help and support, and for enabling me to become a useful, productive, and confident member of society. I'm now a member of the League, a part of the city's poverty reduction strategy. Also, I am the chair of the Dan Harrison Community Complex Residents Association, and I volunteer at the Regent Park Community Health Center. My additional community involvements include St. Michael's Co-Design Team, Margaret Stropin Center, where I run our seniors bingo, and Via Hafta's Public Speaking Forum, and a church in Regent Park where I provide audio-visual assistance. I'm an advocate for food bank accessibility and supports for low-income and vulnerable seniors. Thanks to the trusteeship program, I am no longer a recluse, as you can see, or facing eviction or homelessness. The whole thing is if Neighborhood Information Post got an extra $70,000, that would provide 60 more people would be served. Thank you for listening and your time.
Thank you. Councillor Wong-Tam.
Thank you very much for the deputation. So I guess at a particular point in your life, you fell behind in your rent payments, is that correct?
Yes.
And by reaching out to the Housing Trusteeship Program at the Neighborhood Information Post, they were able to help you manage your finances to ensure that your monthly payments to the landlord, in this case it's TCHC, was made in a timely fashion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so that program prevented you from becoming homeless. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's what I figured.
I was on the way to a tribunal at that time to be evicted.
And Dan Harrison is a TCHC owned and operated building at the corner of Sherbourne and Dundas. Yeah. So you would have been essentially evicted by the City of Toronto.
Yes.
Because the City of Toronto is the 100% shareholder of TCHC.
Yeah.
So the Housing Trusteeship Program, is it a City of Toronto program?
I'm sorry,
Is it a City of Toronto funded program? My understanding is that it is.
Yes, my understanding it is as well.
It is. So it was almost like the City of Toronto reaching back on the other side of the fence and saying, before we evict you, let's give you a hand and help you manage your finances and bring you back up into full payment. Is that what happened?
Yes, that's what happened. At first, they were budgeting my money for me, okay. And now I submit a budget to them on how to handle my finances.
And you take great pride in paying your rent on time now?
Oh, yeah.
And knowing that you will be housed?
Knowing that I'm not going to be evicted or that it's a big weight off my shoulders, so that I was able to do other things.
So is the request from you that the Housing Trusteeship Program right now, if we were to expand that program, and I heard you say one more worker, are you thinking that by expanding that program to expand the service, we could help other individuals perhaps who are in your same situation and prevent that type of eviction, or perhaps bring people into good standing with their payments again?
That's true. I recommended 2 people from Dan Harrison to the program, and they are now in that program as well. And they were prevented from being evicted as well.
So then the request that you made in terms of the $70,000 to hire one additional worker is relatively a modest amount of money, especially if we evaluate it to the overall operating dollars of the city. But it sounds to me that we've actually saved ourselves, the City of Toronto has saved ourselves a lot of money by making sure that you're housed. Because if you weren't housed and if you fell through the cracks and we end up catching you in the shelters by way of example, or perhaps in the hallways of ER rooms or hospitals, it would probably end up costing the system a lot more than the $70,000 that you're asking for.
That's right.
Okay,
that would provide 60 more people for service.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Cheryl Tiveron, or Tiveron. Cheryl Tiveron. Okay, next is Lauren Bulkard. Welcome, Lauren.
I apologize, it's actually Diana. There's a bit of a mix-up there.
Oh, okay.
It's all right.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. The Toronto Drop-In Network includes a membership of over 50 drop-ins across the City of Toronto, as well as all of the community members who participate in their services. We understand the challenges faced by the communities and inhabitants of our city, which are becoming increasingly pronounced for many as the cost of living escalates beyond the capacity of their incomes. Drop-in participants include people of all demographics, so adults, seniors, youth, men, women, trans folk, newcomers, Indigenous people, people living with disabilities, people managing traumas, and many, many more. Those who use the services of drop-ins are often street involved and either sleeping rough or in shelters and respites, when and if the space is available, which many other folks have spoken to today, or else in precarious, unsustainable, and unhealthy housing situations. Many people live without basic amenities, including the means to cook their own meals. Others cannot safely be at home without a risk of violence. Most experience social isolation and face barriers to being able to participate in society. Being able to come to drop-ins to be somewhere safe, to connect with friends and those who care, to access essential community health and employment services, and to participate in recreational, cultural, and wellness programming allows our participants to live with dignity as valued members of our community. Public transit also connects, lost my place there. Pardon me. Public transit also connects them to work, school, and volunteer placements, as well as spend time with loved ones, attend appointments, visit their social assistance office, and access food banks. It is also how many get to the ER, and it enables people to remove themselves from areas where there's an unsafe situation. For many of the people drop-ins serve, the only other affordable alternative is to walk. Having access to an affordable public transit system is vital for the inclusion, health, and equitable treatment of the tens of thousands of Torontonians that drop-ins serve. The introduction of the Fair Pass program was an important recognition by the city of how vital an accessible public transportation system is to low-income people. However, it does not go far enough. At present, the discounted single-ride fare offered by the Fair Pass program of $2 is actually quite unaffordable for many, as is a monthly discounted pass of $115.50. We know that for individuals receiving OW and ODSP, the 2019 increase promised to them by the province has been halved by our current government, placing their assistance grossly below the rate of inflation. We also know that the province has frozen the minimum wage at $14 an hour, which continues to place even full-time minimum wage earners well below the poverty line. For individuals on social assistance, the purchase of a monthly Fair Pass represents over 1/3 of the basic needs allotment for recipients of OW and 1/6 of the basic needs allotment for those on ODSP, if, of course, those on these programs actually choose to purchase a pass. Doing so often means an unthinkable choice between having access to transit or being able to afford to eat, both healthily and enough, or purchase critical and life-saving medications. Because of this, the former can seem like a luxury in the face of being unable to meet the most basic of needs. Given that the current Fair Pass program already fails to make deep enough concessions for low-income Torontonians, an increase of 5 cents per individual fare and $3.90 for a monthly pass will exacerbate an already untenable situation for folks. If the TTC requires an increase in funding to operate, this is neither a sustainable or a logical strategy. This is especially true if the fare increase will be applied to help fund 70 new TTC positions specifically created to inspect and enforce fares. Having a truly affordable transit fare for low-income individuals would significantly cut fare evasion and make the formation of these enforcement positions unnecessary. The city and the TTC should not support the entrapment of those who are already marginalized by creating more barriers for them. It is both fiscally and socially reckless. If Toronto is truly committed to being a vibrant, diverse, and inclusive city, it is your duty to find other sources of revenue that will support low-income Torontonians to live healthier lives, as well as decrease the need for a gratuitous authoritarian security presence in our public services. On behalf of Toronto's drop-ins and the people they serve, I urge you to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next is, sorry, Councillor Layton had a question.
If I could, you've asked us to go look at for other sources of revenue, and I tend to agree that I think that clawing back 5 cents of a fare that's just been decreased last year.
Exactly.
Is not only unfair, it just doesn't make any sense.
No.
Were you aware that since the vehicle registration tax was repealed for the City of Toronto, that the cost to transit riders is actually almost replaced by that amount in that same amount of time? And which is really just shifting the cost of public transit towards transit riders, arguably those that are helping get cars off the road.
Yes.
Does that seem to make any sense?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Patience Evbagira, I believe. Patience Evbagira?
She's here.
Okay, I'll just, if she comes in, just somebody let me know. Richard Rayborn. We have, are you with Richard? Okay. All right.
St. Stephen's Community House, just in case he has questions.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes, good afternoon. How's everyone doing today? Good to see you. I'm doing fine, but not everyone in the GTA is doing as well as most of us today, with the lack of mental health workers for the most vulnerable, aging population that we have now, of seniors, and increasing homeless and substance abuse users that use our overdose prevention sites in our drop-in. But thanks to a lot of our drop-ins, namely St. Stephen's Community House, the services and caseworkers still need to get that help in the greater narrative of community services for opiate abuse and mental health. We're asking, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of the cases today, for an increase to the drop-in funding, almost to the equivalent of even getting 3 extra medical counselors or even floor support, because I've worked in the drop-in system for a little over a couple of years now, and I've needed the services previous to that. I can attest that the program and the services do work. But increasing the demand from our clients, as we're getting more clients, and who are on disability and who are underemployed, they need those services that can at least help them get back on track. I work at the Odette Drop-In, which is right in the heart of the Kensington Market, and I believe that would be, yeah, Mr. Layton, thank you. So you should come by our drop-in sometime and take a look and get a hands-on. But there have been improvements, and I don't have those figures. If you happen to ask, maybe ask Helen over here and or Susan about those numbers. But it definitely is to the advantage and will save the city money in the long term. Last month was Bell Talk, and we heard so much about how we still need to talk about mental health, right? And I guess that's all I have to say for today, but we do need the money. So show us the money. Power to the people on the vote, and I'd like to thank you very much for your time. Happy Black History Month and Happy Chinese New Year.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I think you were
okay, so checks in the mail, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll work it out. Thanks.
So as I believe Patience is here now. How do you pronounce your last name, Patience?
My last name is a Nigerian last name. It's pronounced as Evagaro, so it's Patience Evagaro.
Okay, thank you.
Quite silent, so it's a bit confusing. Well, good afternoon, everyone in this room. I know we've had quite a long day, and I guess all of us, well, for majority of people who've been here since morning, we've been listening to a lot of deputations. I appreciate council members, city clerks, and everyone for actually coming out, because it proves and it shows that the city matters, and there's nothing more important to me than the city of Toronto. While I was listening to deputations earlier today, I was quite impressed because a lot of people touched on matters that were quite concerning to me. So, I mean, I wrote down a few things, but I think I'm going to cut it short. give a summary and just tell you how I feel at this very moment. I'm here because on behalf of the many youth I represent, we are tired. We are tired because at the end of the day, we go to school, we get jobs, we try to live peaceful lives, but we need to also look at many situations surrounding us, many situations surrounding many communities here in the city of Toronto. I'm quite aware that Councillor Josh Matlow came up with a $3.1 million proposal to fund youth hubs and to just get some more spaces for libraries and other facilities. And on a regular day, I tell you the truth, I would really focus on a lot of other matters concerning this budget. However, the gun violence that's been happening in the city of Toronto it's amazed me, because the people who are committing the murder, the victims, are people of my age. It's scary. It's really scary. And, you know, I live in Scarborough. I live in what's now Ward 24. And when I was running for city council, I met a lot of people knocking on doors, and a lot of youth who are not so passionate about coming out and speaking to the public came to me in private and said, hey, you know what, we can relate to you, and I want to tell you this one thing. We need centers. We need centers where our youth can, at the end of the day after school, even if it's for just 4 hours, can come out and connect. They can engage in activities, have it be sports or, you know, help each other out with homework. These initiatives matter. We've heard about, you know, many deaths, and we're always asking, what are we going to do? When are we going to, you know, create solutions? Well, I'm here to say, just my own little piece of advice, that the solutions are right in front of us. These little initiatives help so much, even if it's one person's life. I know many people are arguing and saying, you know, well, what about the next, you know, the next person who may not really benefit from programs that we have? One person matters, just like one death matters. The people in the city of Toronto matter, like I've said. So, I mean, I'm just here to really ask and hope that you guys really discuss within council and make sure that we get, well, the youth receive more funding for safe places for youth. I know Councillor Josh Matlow had said that with the initiative that he initially brought out, it would leave with more centers, doubling what is available. There would be spaces for youth at least 2 kilometers from, I guess, each neighborhood, which I think is a fantastic idea, especially for youth who may not have the extra fares to go to other spaces in the city of Toronto. It works a whole lot. I'm definitely in agreement with it. I just really believe that, you know, there are too many disadvantaged neighborhoods that lack these things, lack it. It's sad. I want to give you an example now. There's, I think someone from the crowd said they were from Rise. Rise is they do these events in Scarborough. I know it's every Monday. Fantastic. I was raised in Scarborough, born in Montreal, raised in Scarborough, but I've never seen any unity like that in Scarborough centers for youth. It's crazy. You see, you know, youth of different ages coming to express themselves in different ways. This is good for the promotion of our mental health. It's good for the promotion of our physical health. It will boost the self-esteem of youth and these individuals, creating the leaders that we actually need. I wrote a whole lot, but like I said, I feel like a lot of people have covered on many of the things that I wanted to speak on about. So I'm just here to say that, you know, we're losing so many youth. I don't think that it's wise for us to spend so much and invest more on the police as far as gun violence and youth violence is concerned. I think we need to go back to the main reason why you know, we're gathered here today, which is the future. The youth, they say the youth are the future, and I believe the future is now. So we need to do everything we can to protect them. And sometimes that doesn't mean literally hiring so many officers, putting them in schools. What it means is that we need to create support systems for them, support systems. I was campaigning and people were coming to me and saying, you know what, we've lived in, these are older people now saying, we grew up in this community. We've lived in this community for years. But the younger generation now, it's like it's a pattern, and they're worse. So what can we do? We need to create a community where we are together, a community of togetherness. When we have that, communities are stronger, voices are stronger. Youth become the leaders that we actually want them to be so that they can sit in rooms just like this and do the jobs that you guys are all doing. It's very important. Like I said, there's many things I want to touch base on, but I don't want to repeat a lot of things that many people were saying. I'm thankful for them for coming out, but I'm basically here just to say that it's not a waste of our funds, and like, I'm very aware that in 2016, a briefing note released by library staff indicates that youth hubs nearly, when they doubled from 2016 because the new hubs were available. And essentially, when the new hubs became available, more people were coming out. So it wasn't like
wrap up.
Wrap up, no problem. It wasn't like nobody was not, attending these hubs. They were actually very active, and they were making a lot of sense. So in conclusion, I beg council to, I don't think that, some additional costs to funding for situations like this would not be beneficial. So I'm urging council to please, 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 in conclusion, support the youth and support the youth in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Katrin Claus. Not here? Okay. John Choi. Welcome.
Hi. And just for your information, the person next on the list was a colleague that was supposed to come with me. She had to return back to the office, and so she won't be deputing today.
That's Ray?
Yes.
Okay.
So hello, I'm John Choi. I'm with Stella's Place Assessment and Treatment Center. We are one of these community integrated youth hubs that's currently not being, without sustained funding from government. By now, you probably all have heard that 20% of Canadians struggle or will struggle with significant mental health concerns. And you may also know that many mental health concerns, significant ones, emerge and present themselves in late adolescence and early adulthood. Folks who happen to be between the ages of 16 and 29 are particularly susceptible to mental health challenges due to their developmental stage and because of the different stresses that they experience and the transitions that naturally occur at that stage in life. And the impact of these significant mental health concerns, if untreated, lead to folks disengaging from their families, disengaging from their communities, disengaging from their education, and struggling with employment and sort of finding their connection to their community. And the results of this is young people are overwhelmingly overrepresented in terms of suicidal attempts, suicide completions. They are overrepresented in emergency departments of hospitals for symptoms of mental health. You may also have heard that despite this group of our population being the most susceptible and struggling with mental health, they are also the most likely to drop out of services if they do indeed get engaged in services. In fact, research shows 60 to 65% of young people who access services don't complete their treatment. And what this really speaks to is that traditional treatment centers or traditional services are not designed to meet the specific needs of this group of folks. And at Stella's Place, we've partnered with young adults to develop and innovate services to meet those needs. And to that end, we are showing that 80 to 85% of the folks that start treatment at Stella's Place complete treatment. So we have developed effectively services that are effective and are engaging young people. The City of Toronto has generously partnered with Stella's Place in providing some services. We've been active in the Toronto Youth Equity Strategy that has been mentioned many times today. And we've received support through the Toronto Urban Health Fund as well. And in 2018, we reached 1,000 unique young adults who accessed our services. Stella's Place has currently outgrown our current location. We are sort of teeming at the edges of our space, and we plan to move into a new permanent home. And right now, we are in need of capital dollars to make that happen. So our total capital campaign, we need $12 million for the purchase of the space and for the renovations. And so far, we've been able to raise $8 million of the 12. Yes. So we look at this opportunity as creating a permanent home for young adults to access a full range of supports, as well as an opportunity to use this new space to generate revenue, to increase our capacity for sustainability, so that we do not need to continuously seek different funding paths to sustain our services. So we request that the City Council seriously consider providing some capital dollars. It would be a one-time investment to see a permanent home to provide these much-needed services so that young adults and older youth can have the significant mental health needs that they have met so that they can then in turn contribute, continue and attain their educational goals, their employment goals, contribute to their communities, and overcome those mental health challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll has a question.
Yeah, so to fill out your capital plan, there aren't any, it's not like, culture grants or anything like that. There aren't any real other orders of government sort of capital build plans that you can apply to as an individual agency, are there?
We have one application in with the federal government right now for a small portion of it in terms of accessibility, but you're right, there aren't a whole lot of options or opportunities for us to.
Right. So as long as it's attached to, it has to be attached to a purpose, like we're building this thing, making it accessible, could you fund that? You can't go to them and just say, to fill out this pro forma, we're just short $4 million.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Sue Dexter.
Wow. I thought I'd sit in your chairs for a day, and I must say I admire you. I don't know how my deputation is going to go as a result, but you guys are holding up quite well. My name is Sue Dexter. I'm a resident of downtown. I first came to Toronto more than half a century ago. This is my first deputation to the Budget Committee, and I want to talk about process. First, there is respect and agreement for parts of your process. I think everyone applauds a value for dollar goal in city financing. Second, everyone recognizes that creating a budget with public input is a challenging business. Everybody has a view. Whatever system you put in place, there will be disagreements on where to spend and how much. We see a different problem that I think you could easily address. The claim is made that property owners in Toronto, or the electorate, do not want tax increases. From the election of Rob Ford through to today, that presumption has never been tested. Election results are at best a middling indicator. Rather, tax policy is just one element in the mix of personality, happenstance, issues that decide who is elected every 4 years. The fundamental goal of maintaining property tax at zero cost of living increase may in fact not reflect the actual feelings of the public if they were given a real choice. And that is where the budget process comes in. If it were fully transparent, electors would know the cost to them of budget items. We all have a dream city where everything works, where people are housed, where roads are designed so well no one is put at risk as pedestrians or cyclists, where traffic and transit flows easily and citizens care for one another. The choice to do so should be built into the budget process. Left unstated, the costs of fixing a broken city can seem overwhelming. We need you to give us the transparency and choice virtually all businesses will provide. Economy package costs this, middling package costs a bit more but adds these benefits. First class costs that but adds even more specific benefits. So when I walk a dog every day, so I talk to my neighbors, they come by. And I say, would you like a tax increase? They say, the first position is the evil twin comes out, no. I said, well, what happens? How much would a unit of affordable housing actually cost? Suppose, I tell them, it would cost $20 on your tax bill to build 4 units. oh, I'd do that. Then, and you can go through the budget in all stages and present them the actual real costs that they could then vote on. I'm not suggesting a referendum here. I'm suggesting to leave the actual costs blank is to incite fear. The fear of, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. So how much would a downtown relief line cost? What would be added to their tax? $30? To fix TCHC backlog, what tax dollars are needed on top of their taxes? $40? To create 1 unit of affordable housing adds what on my tax bill? $25, $50, or $5.50? Failing to bring the budget numbers down to the actual impacts to property owners, our budget process denies everyone educated choice. It denies council a read on the electorate's actual opinion on tax, and in the process, the city finds itself in decline. That is something we can ill afford. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll.
I think you're right that we haven't put it to the test, but we did put it to the test a long time ago. This budget is very much reliant on the municipal land transfer tax. I don't know if you remember when we instituted that, but every single councillor who voted for it got re-elected.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Well, I think it's wrong to make the presumption. I think we have to say, here's the real cost.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the case of the land transfer tax, the problem with that is that it's subject to market. Mm-hmm. And so then you're tying your wagon to a star that can fall.
Unless you're careful how you use it. We really should treat it like one-time money. Well, for instance, the deputant that just preceding you described a really important thing that we could be helping to build. The $4 million that he needs would be less than $3 a ratepayer account.
That's right, and that's the number the public wants. They really do, and I think you could do that number easily enough. You don't have to have a referendum on every item, but to give us the actual number makes it real suddenly, and then we can say, oh, yeah.
So it's
go for it.
So let me ask you this, because you fit into an interesting population group. You live downtown, but most people think downtown is nothing but millennials, and in fact, there are people who have invested in living in the
all ages and stages.
Time.
Yeah.
So it has been now over 10 years since we had real pre-budget, not with the budget hanging over our heads, but just a citywide, what do you want? We're listening Toronto consultation on what is the city you want. It's now more than 10 years since we had listening to Toronto. If we did that again and we really described what spending for impact would get people, you think that's what we need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was at a council at a budget meeting. I guess the lady sitting in the second row was there. I think Councillor Layton was there, and Cressy. And I don't know anything about numbers, but I do know if you bring the numbers down to my level, where I can say, oh yeah, I could afford that. That would be worth spending, because the city, and there's a lot of attractive, when I was sitting here today, there were at least 4 independent voices saying, look at the property tax, guys, look at it. We think you might have some support there. I personally am in favor of that. And you balance off the people who would be disadvantaged, but I don't think it's right to say people don't want. They need to know what they would get for it, and that it wouldn't kill them to agree to it. And then we can help all these people we've all seen all day.
Thank you. Councillor Layton has a question.
Thank you very much. What I'm really interested in, and I think our CFO is starting to think about this, or starting to. She's in the middle of thinking about this for future years, is what would be the best interface with the public on this? Because you've been to, obviously, to one of Councillor Cressy's budget meetings. The demographics at some of those skew one direction or another, and oftentimes it's people that are just really engaged, of every age group, of every income type. They often have one or two issues top of mind, but they might care about a lot of stuff. And we've seen, I think, much of that with the group today. People that are really dedicated and that took time off work, or whose very profession is part of advocating for a more fair and accessible place in this beautiful city of Toronto. So in order for us to round that out, because often we hear from people in the current administration, the previous administrations, that, oh, these are just the professional activists, these are people that have the ability to do that. Real people are out there in the world working there, doing their lives. I would argue that we're all technically real people, but what interface would you, I like the idea of translating it to something people can comprehend. And for the record, $25 a year on your tax bill translates roughly into 83 built homes per year.
Do it. Do it now.
But what would the interface? What would the interface? I spent 2 minutes asking the question. What would the interface be that you think would be most useful and productive?
Well, it's an interesting thing because you're going through restructuring at the same time, and I'm active on a community association, and I'm active on working groups on that with that community association and our neighbors. Community associations or residents associations know what's happening in their catchment. So for us, St. Stephen's is a no-brainer, and they're down in Kensington Market, so they're just over our border. We've got the Fort York Food Bank. We have the community association has a built-in awareness of what happens within their boundaries and adjacent boundaries, and I think if you put together stakeholder committees to assist you in your discussion, to say yes, we've got some people, and you also increase the cohesiveness of the city itself by cementing the community level, community association level, into whoever's in their catchment. It creates a different bonding if we're called on to say, yeah, in our we go to a budget meeting, our association, we have this and this and this, and we have needs, we have affordable housing needs and desires, and we respect that. We'd like to work with the city on those things, as we do. I think working groups would help you, and you might be able to do it by the community councils, maybe split it off into community. I don't know how small you would have to go to get the input, but I think we should collaborate. In other words, what you're talking about, what I'm talking about, is the city collaborates with the council on saying, let's build a really great city. Let's not fall behind. Let's not see the projections having us in the ditch. Let's not. Part of the problem, I was going to tell, if I got time to tell 3 little snapshots. I'll give you 3 snapshots and then I'll go home. The first one is I came back about in 1980 from Washington. And I was in the bank. The Royal Bank used to be at the college in Spadina. And I went in there, and there was a dead man on the floor. And so I went next door. It was before cell phones, which is what we were talking about. And I called 911, and I said, there's a dead man on the floor. And the fire department came and kicked him to life, basically, was what happened, and he got up. My first homeless person who was sheltering in the bank overnight. The second picture was coming in an ambulance from St. Mike's to Princess Margaret with a friend of mine who just had a stent inserted in her pancreatic duct. And the ride was so bumpy, I was really worried about what the status of that stent was going to be, whether it would survive. And we were holding on to her. She was dying, but we were holding on to her. The third experience, if you have, we can't afford, the third experience was my own, and it was fear. And I had given up using the car downtown, 'cause it's too much, transit's easier, and I don't have to worry about parking. And I was at Yonge Street, and the TTC wasn't coming. And nobody had told anybody at the station. So I'm on the platform, Yonge and Bloor, and the people are coming down the escalator, and they keep coming, and they keep coming. And I used to be a international journalist, so I know crowds, right? And they kept coming, and nobody was stopping them down this escalator. And I thought, if more come, I'm going to be on the tracks. I'm just going to be on the tracks. And so I fled upstairs. I thought, I'm out of here. I'm getting out of here. And I wound up on a streetcar then by trying to get home. I'm trying to get 10 blocks, So about 30 minutes later, I'm on the streetcar. It was so crushed. I mean, it made Bombay look like, or Mumbai, put to shame. And these are not good conditions for our city. These are not good. We should not have created these situations, and we should correct them. And certainly the homeless people, the people who are having problems with rent, these are unconscionable, really.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the time. Thank you for being here all day.
Next is Diana Yoon. Diana, are you here? Sorry? Okay, we only have 2 more deputants listed, so we may unfortunately not get to her unless she wants to come at 6. So because we have Paula Lynch and then Joel Klassen are the last 2 that we have registered here, and then we'll be breaking. So Paula Lynch. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Paula Anika Lynch. I'm frequently known as Anika within my community. I currently reside in the York Southwestern area of Ward 5. However, I previously lived in the Spadina-Fort York area of Ward 10. As a recent university graduate and a former youth who is in need of support and mentorship, I'm addressing you today to ask for more youth spaces within the City of Toronto. During my elementary school years, I often found myself in situations where I was in need of guidance and support. Having a boisterous personality, a questioning mind, and a need to understand roles of authority in my life led me to often find myself either in the principal's office or many times suspended from school. I was born into a home with immigrant parents and siblings who were at least 9 years my senior. So my behavior at the time was not often understood and it was looked down upon. I often frequented community spaces such as community recreation centers, library reading programs, and youth hubs. However, it was not until I was 13 years of age when these youth spaces truly began to impact my life. I found solace in community centers within my neighborhoods, and I was able to connect with youth who had similar experiences to my own. More importantly, I was able to express my opinions and my feelings to adult authority figures in a safe space that allowed for discussion, growth, and learning opportunities. With spaces such as Alexandra Park Community Center, St. Stephen's Community House, and the Jane Street Hub, I was able to attend youth art programming, and I nurtured my passion for spoken word. I was able to hold discussions with young men and young women of my age group about current topics, issues that affect our lives, and our common experiences. I yearned for these discussions growing up as they were not provided to me in my home and school settings. While attending young women's programs such as Girl Talk in Alexandra Park Community Center and Venus in St. Stephen's Community House, I made lasting friendships and connections that have helped me with my navigation through life. It is important to note that beyond the programs held in these community centers and these youth hubs, it is essential to have these spaces exist. Youth spaces and youth lounges provide youth with safe places to go after school. They provide safety, warmth, and welcoming atmospheres for youth from all walks of life, while keeping youth off of the streets, out of the cold, and removed from unsafe situations. More importantly, above all of the experiences I have had and the connections I've made in the previously mentioned youth spaces, I truly appreciate all of the mentors that I've gained along the way. These youth workers have impacted my life in numerous ways, from helping me to navigate suspensions in the education system to everyday issues that have arose for me in my past. They've helped me with personal situations such as family conflicts and internal personal battles. There are always mentors that I can call to discuss personal growth, school applications, employment, and career growth, as well as simple things like check-ins and hellos. As you now all bear witness to the great impact that community centers and youth spaces have had on my life, I would like to ask you again for more youth spaces within the City of Toronto. I'm aware of a proposal that is not included in the city budget to spend $3 million to open 20 more safe youth spaces within the city, and this needs to be in the budget. As youth spaces have had such a great impact on my life, I would love to see these impacts continue on for the youth to come. I would like to personally thank you all for taking the time to listen to me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last name on our list is Joel Klassen from Yonge Street Mission. Welcome.
Making a space for a community to come and speak, and for me to come and speak. And I, as others have said, I've been quite impressed by hearing all the input from community members as well as your questions. I work for Yonge Street Mission as a community capacity builder with community groups, especially in Regent Park and Moss Park. I want to keep a couple of themes in my talk, but I want to speak first on our support for the pilot project proposal that you heard about earlier from Ismail Afra, a member of the Access to Recreation group that the group is working on with Parks, Forestry and Recreation for a partnership between Toronto District School Board and the city to offer Learn to Swim classes for students in Nelson Mandela and Lord Dufferin Public School. If you are looking for it, it's on page 42 of the PF and our budget notes. So we support the work of the group of Access to Recreation. It's a community-led group. And we see, as Ismail was explaining, that it will be a step to address a long-felt inequity in the neighborhood where local residents don't have access, effective access to recreation programming. And we don't see it as only for Regent Park. We see it as, if it works and if it shows that it's successful, it can be a path to, that could be followed in other similar neighborhoods around the city, neighborhoods where there's free centers, where there's oversubscribed programming, and where local residents aren't able to sufficiently access their own local facilities. So we'd like you to pass this proposal as a new and enhanced initiative, and it's, as Ismail was saying, its budget is proposed as $160,000 over 3 years. And just to clarify, it's a Learn to Swim program that's being proposed through the schools, so it goes further than Swim to Survive. Which is good insofar as it goes, and it teaches basic skills, and this would go further than that. And we have strong letters of support from the principals of both schools, and we'll include those with our written submissions. Yeah, so I think, you know, if we would ask you to support it, and we think that it's a creative way to try to increase capacity in the city for recreation programming, which is much needed. So I want to use that as a kind of make a connection to the other part of what I want to speak about. Well, first, just to talk about that this inequity that's felt in the community is something that you will be hearing, as Ismail said, from other members of the group this evening when they come. But I'd like to draw your attention to an article in the Toronto Star from February 2nd, which in that article, data was brought to light that showed that only 25% of those enrolled in the swim programs in Regent Park, in the Pam McConnell Aquatic Center, are from that local neighborhood or neighborhoods in that local vicinity. So we see this project as being one measure that would help to remedy that inequity. And it would do that without further overburdening the city rec system, which is already pretty overburdened. So from there, I'd like to go to the larger picture. So this pilot project is one measure, but we see that it is it's part of a larger problem where the city budget just simply doesn't have sufficient capacity. The city's calling for an additional 70,000 increased spaces for recreation over the next several years. This will help to reduce the 200,000 long waiting list. People want these services. They clearly value the services. And yet this year's budget calls of those 70,000 calls for only 7,500 more spaces. So that's not enough for the need, obviously, and it's not acceptable to continually push back these services into an uncertain future. To go more broadly, almost 80% of the city councillors signed the Prosperity Pledge before last year's elections. This included the mayor and all members of the budget committee that are here present. It's based on commitments already made by council. It calls on council to actually do what it has said it will do. It calls for 7,200 more supportive housing units during this term of council. For this year, 500 are funded. It calls for 8,000 deeply affordable new housing units. New units as a whole brought on by the city will amount to 2,500. Only a small number of those are slated to be deeply affordable. Shelter beds, similarly, the commitment is to 1,000 new beds, but they're coming on stream excruciatingly slowly. Other parts of the pledge include commitments to build and subsidize childcare spaces. You've heard about that today. Some progress has been made, but the needs are far in excess of what's being done. Transit is woefully underfunded, as recent reports by the TTC have shown, and it's the most vulnerable in the city that feel this the most. So I just urge you to fully fund the commitments that you have made already.
Thank you. Councillor Layton.
Yes, thank you for bringing up that commitment that councillors have made. It would be really useful to have that in a nice sort of, let's call it a report card type format with how we're performing thus far, printed quite large. And if you have trouble getting it in the council chamber, just let one of us carry it in.
Like that.
This might be useful as we move along this term of council, calling us on our proverbial whatever you want to call it, is I think a good thing to hold the leaders account. We make a lot of commitments during elections, and it's nice to see how we stack up for what our actions are.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Carroll.
Just following on Sue's deputation before, just to do that Learn to Swim that you've encouraged us to do again, it's $160,000.
Over 3 years.
So that's less than 12 cents a ratepayer. Just saying.
Did you have a question also about interfaces between the city and how across the city we could sort of interface in this budget process and create a vision for the city?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I really liked the discussion that was being had with the previous deputant, and I think that it would be great for the city to, as council, to figure out what would be the good interface, what would be a good interface, so that it's done across the city, and that it really does bring the whole city together, people of vastly different viewpoints, and people who may feel that we really can't afford anything more, but at least people could be sitting in the same room and have that a more human conversation.
Well, I started asking it on the 10th anniversary in 2017, and I promise to continue to ask until it happens.
Thank you. Just wanted to do one last call for a few people that weren't here earlier. Is Jonah Brotman here? Cheryl Tiveron? Katrine Claus? And Diana Yoon. Okay. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming today, whether you're here or you've already left. I appreciate the opportunity to hear you. We just have to do procedural motion to end this session. That the Budget Subcommittee for City Hall and North York Civic Centre consultation received for information the public presentations and the communications submitted by members of the public. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are now in, well, we'll be back at 6 p.m. for the evening session. Thank you, everyone.